Some breaking news to bring you about the BBC. The BBC chairman has announced that both the Director General, Tim Davie, and the news CEO, Deborah Turness, are to resign. Let's bring you more on that story. Our culture reporter, Noor Nanji, is with me here. So tell us about the background to this and about the resignation statements.
Yeah, that's right. Really significant news that's just come to us in the last few minutes. So both the BBC's Director General, Tim Davie, but also Deborah Turness, who is the CEO of News, both resigning. We've just had that, as I say, in the last few minutes. Now, in a statement, the BBC chairman, Samir Shah, said this is a sad day for the BBC.
This is the moment political operatives have been dreading for years, and it just happened in real time. We are witnessing a complete and total meltdown inside Donald Trump's political operation. Not a single defection, not a minor staff shakeup, but a full-scale evacuation of everyone who mattered. The campaign chairman, the deputy chief of staff, senior economic advisors, all of them gone.
That the ongoing controversy around the panorama on President Donald Trump, has reached a stage where it is causing damage to the BBC, which is an institution that she says she loves. And she says that as CEO of BBC News, the buck stops with me. And so therefore she has taken this difficult decision to offer her resignation. And she too says she'll be working on an orderly transition.
In the same 48-hour window. And the timing couldn't be more catastrophic, coming just months before the 2026 midterm elections when Republicans should be consolidating power and preparing for battle. Instead, they're watching their entire infrastructure collapse while the man at the top stands completely alone. What you're about to hear reveals exactly why they ran, what they knew.
We stand here today because the president's continuing abuse of his power has left us no choice. To do nothing would make ourselves complicit in the president's abuse of his high office, the public trust, and our national security. The president's misconduct is as simple and as terrible as this. President Trump solicited a foreign nation, Ukraine, to publicly announce investigations into his opponent.
And the leaked audio proving that Trump's inner circle saw the iceberg coming and decided to abandon ship before it was too late. Before we get into the political earthquake, there's something else happening simultaneously that you need to understand. The BBC, one of the most powerful media institutions in the world, just had its own meltdown. The chairman announced that both Director General Tim Davie and new CEO Deborah Turness are stepping down effective immediately. This isn't a routine retirement. This comes after found the BBC severely breached broadcasting rules with a Gaza documentary, and the ongoing Panorama controversy refuses to die.
Now, the message from Tim Davie, the Director General, is quite long, but I will read it for you. Dear all, he says, I wanted to let you know that I have decided to leave the BBC after 20 years. This is entirely my decision, and I remain very thankful to the Chair and Board for their unswerving and unanimous support throughout my entire tenure, including during recent days. He goes on, I'm working through exact timings with the Board to allow for an orderly transition to a successor over the coming months. I've been reflecting on the very intense personal and professional demands of managing this role over many years in these febrile times, combined with the fact that I want to give a successor time to help shape the charter plans they will be delivering.
White House officials through the Telegraph called the BBC's coverage dishonest. Chairman Samir Shah admitted it's a tough day, praising Davie's 5-year tenure, even as he showed him the door. Tomorrow, Shah faces a parliamentary select committee to explain what happened. The timing is remarkable because both Davie and Tess resigned on the same Sunday night, adding to the sense of coordinated chaos. But as significant as that is, it pales in comparison to what just happened inside Trump's campaign.
The BBC, being a fair news organization, is definitely an outlet. I think these two leaders would disagree. The president has made it very clear that this is a leftist propaganda machine that is unfortunately subsidized by British taxpayers, and he thinks that's extremely unfortunate for the great people of the United Kingdom and Great Britain. And I think that the president was deeply concerned by the editing, the purposeful and dishonest editing of his speech that was so clearly fake news.
Let's start with the biggest name, Paul Manafort. Not just any staffer, the campaign chairman, the man who ran Trump's 2016 operation during some of its most critical moments. A seasoned political operative with decades of experience dating back to Gerald Ford's convention. On February 3rd, 2026, Manafort looked at the situation, looked at the trajectory, looked at the man he was working for, and made a decision that speaks louder than any poll ever could. He quit. But here's what makes this truly extraordinary. Manafort didn't just resign quietly. Through video analysis and reports, he essentially said the 2026 midterms are going to be a bloodbath for Republicans. He predicted a wipeout reminiscent of 2018 when Democrats swept the House. He looked at the data, looked at the scandals, looked at the trajectory, and concluded that staying attached to Trump meant going down with the ship. So he chose survival over loyalty. The reports indicate Manafort was actually demoted before he left.
Donald Trump campaign and another change at the top. Campaign chairman Paul Manafort resigns Friday. This on the heels of Trump's overhaul of campaign management earlier this week. He says Manafort offered and he accepted Manafort's resignation. They are publicly parting on friendly terms. But do we know what's behind this move?
Trump wanted fresh faces, wanted to reorganize, wanted to shake things up. But when Manafort realized his role was shrinking, he didn't fight for his position. He didn't try to negotiate. He simply walked away. That's not the reaction of someone who believes in the mission. That's the reaction of someone who was already halfway out the door and needed an excuse to push it open the rest of the way. And once Manafort pulled that trigger, the dam broke completely. Taylor Buttigieg followed immediately. This wasn't some backroom staffer nobody heard of. Buttigieg was the deputy chief of staff, a highly visible figure in Trump's orbit who had been through countless controversies and always stuck around until February 3rd, 2026. Until the scandals became too numerous to count, until the Epstein files started unsealing, until the hot mic recording surfaced, until the January 6th revelations kept coming. But looked at the same picture Manafort saw and reached the same conclusion. Time to go. Then Steven Mnuchin, not the Treasury Secretary, but his brother Steven Mnuchin, who served on the Council of Economic Advisors, another key player handling economic strategy for Trump's operation. And on that same February 3rd, he joined the Exodus. Three senior figures, same day, same conclusion. That's not coincidence. That's coordination. That's conversations happening behind closed doors where people looked at each other and said, "This is over. Let's get out while we still can." And here's where it gets truly damning. Leaked audio from inside Trump's team has surfaced, and the sentiment is devastating. People are saying things like, "I don't want to be associated when it goes down." These aren't critics. These aren't outsiders. These are people who were supposed to be the true believers, the loyalists, the ones who would never leave. And they're openly discussing the collapse as if it's inevitable. They're distancing themselves preemptively, trying to establish separation before the wreckage becomes impossible to escape. That leaked audio proves that the resignations weren't just about Manafort's demotion or individual grievances. It proves there's a widespread belief inside Trump's own operation that everything is about to implode and staying attached means being buried in the rubble. Now, let's talk about why February 3rd mattered so much. Because this didn't happen in a vacuum. The week leading up to these resignations was arguably the worst stretch of Trump's political career since January 6th. First, the hot mic incident. Trump was caught on a live microphone essentially admitting to covering up the Epstein files. Not speculation, not allegation. Audio of the man himself discussing the cover-up. Then the Epstein files themselves started unsealing, revealing connections and details that had been hidden for years. Then a former Mike Pence aide finally spoke publicly about the pressure Trump applied to overturn the election on January 6th, confirming what many had suspected but couldn't prove. Then Trump's own lawyers started bailing on his Georgia case, calling it unwinnable. Then Fox News hosts started walking off sets rather than defend him. Then special elections kept going against Republicans. Then rally attendance started tanking. One crisis after another, each one eroding the foundation until there was nothing left to stand on. And Trump's team watched all of this unfold in real time. They saw the hot mic transcript. They saw the unsealed files. They saw the lawyers quitting. They saw the polls slipping. They saw the special election losses. They saw their own Fox News allies abandoning ship. And they made a collective calculation. This isn't survivable. The 2026 midterms aren't winnable with this baggage, and they got out. So now we have to ask the obvious question. What happens next? Trump is heading into the 2026 midterm elections with no campaign chairman, no deputy chief of staff, no economic advisor, no senior team, no infrastructure. He is completely alone trying to run a presidential agenda and campaign for Republicans across the country with nobody to handle the day-to-day operations. And let's be honest about Trump's limitations here. He's not an organizer. He's not a detail person. He's not a team builder. He's a performer. He needs people to translate his impulses into action, to manage the logistics, to handle the outreach, to raise the money. Without them, he's essentially a candidate with a megaphone and no one to hand him the batteries. The practical implications for Republican candidates are devastating. In swing districts across the country, incumbents are waking up this morning realizing that the support structure they counted on just evaporated. The fundraising operation gone. The data operation, who's running it? The surrogate network, who's showing up? The get-out-the-vote machine, who's building it? Trump's campaign was supposed to be the engine driving Republican turnout in 2026. Instead, that engine just threw a rod, blew a gasket, and caught fire all at once. And think about what this does to Trump's endorsements. His stamp of approval was once considered gold in Republican primaries. Candidates fought for it. They flew to Mar-a-Lago. They kissed the ring. They pledged loyalty. But now, when the campaign chairman himself has fled, when the inner circle has evacuated, what is that endorsement actually worth? If the people closest to Trump won't stay close to Trump, why should any voter believe his backing means success? Why should any donor write checks to candidates he supports? Why should any volunteer knock on doors for people he endorses? The value of his political currency just crashed. Then there's the donor problem. Campaigns run on money, lots of it. And donors are not stupid. They watch the news. They see the resignations. They read the leaked audio transcripts. They know when a ship is sinking. Who wants to pour millions of dollars into an operation that just lost its entire senior staff? Who wants to fund a campaign when the campaign chairman says publicly that the midterms are headed for a wipeout? The fundraising spigot isn't just going to slow down. It's going to freeze entirely and finding replacements. Good luck. Who's going to take that job? What experienced political operative looks at this situation and thinks, yes, I want to be the one holding the bag when it all collapses? The only people willing to work for Trump now are the desperate, the unqualified, or the delusional. And none of those categories produce winning campaigns. So Trump is left with two options: run the operation himself, which he's demonstrably incapable of doing, or let it run on autopilot, which means it crashes. Let's circle back to Manafort's prediction because it deserves real attention. This is a man who has been through more campaigns than almost anyone alive. He's seen wins. He's seen losses. He's seen landslides and squeakers. When he says the 2026 midterms are going to be a wipeout for Republicans, he's not guessing. He's reading the same data everyone else reads, but he's reading it through the lens of decades of experience. And he saw enough to make him walk away from power, from influence, from the proximity to a former president that most political operatives would kill for. That tells you everything you need to know about what's coming. The Democratic base is energized. Special elections keep breaking their way. Trump's approval numbers are underwater. His scandals are multiplying faster than he can deny them. His legal exposure is growing. His team is quitting. His donors are fleeing. His rally crowds are shrinking. His Fox News allies are walking off sets. It's the perfect storm. And it's all converging at exactly the wrong moment for Republicans who need to defend seats in districts that Joe Biden won or came close to winning. So, where does this leave Trump? Standing in the middle of a deserted campaign headquarters, surrounded by empty desks and silent phones, trying to figure out how to win an election with no one to help him do it. The man who built his political identity on being surrounded by loyalists, on having the fiercest team, on commanding absolute devotion, is now completely isolated. The very people who knew him best, who worked closest with him, who had the most to lose by leaving, decided that staying was worse. They looked at the future and chose anything else. And that's the real story here. Not just the resignations themselves, but what they represent. When the campaign chairman quits and predicts disaster, it's not a resignation. It's a warning. When the deputy chief of staff follows the same day, it's not a coincidence. It's a verdict. When leaked audio captures staffers saying they don't want to be associated when it goes down, it's not gossip. It's the sound of a political movement flatlining. Paul Manafort quit on February 3rd, 2026. Taylor Bodge quit the same day. Stephen Minutuchin quit the same day. And they all quit for the same reason. They looked at the hot mic recording, at the Epstein files, at the January 6th revelations, at the lawyer defections, at the special election losses, at the sinking polls, and they made a rational calculation. This is over. The 2026 midterms are lost, and the only smart move is to get out before the rubble buries you. Trump is alone now, truly alone. For the first time in his